Claire's in Kennington. Claire, what would you like to say?
Oh, hi. I think that in a way you're a bit guilty of this false news thing. You've been reporting about the time of the queues, which is actually shorter than it's being publicised, and it's been sensationalised. Because I've read some of the stuff online today. Admittedly, I don't buy newspapers very often anymore. And I don't think they're having a massive go at Meghan Markle. I think they're just pointing out that that's what happened. And from my point of view, I'm not a royalist. I'm not a particular. I like to watch these things because I think they're sort of majestic and the historic importance. And I am sympathetic towards what's happened to him and his mother, but as part of a very formal procession. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think they were the only couple to hold hands when they were in Westminster Hall as part of that very formal part of the procession.
I know that Zara Phillips and her husband held hands in the hall as well.
They weren't in the processional bit, though, were they?
What difference does that make?
They were to the because I think it's being televised. It's part of this big show of monarchy.
Yes.
And it's very, very formal, and everyone else managed not to do it. And in that way, I think
they didn't want to.
Self-indulgent.
Self-indulgent.
Yeah, I think it's a bit self-indulgent to feel the need to hold hands when they're part of such a formal bit of the procession.
Is there a place we can go to find out when it is and is not acceptable to hold hands with your wife? Because I'd hate to get it wrong myself at a family funeral.
I know it must be absolutely horrendous.
But where do you get your where are you getting your guidance from on this?
I just think the fact that people have noticed it suggests that you don't do it quite then. But I agree, it must be really difficult to actually follow every royal protocol, especially if you haven't been brought up as part of it.
It's the part of the day that they did it in, because I've got pictures in front of me of other couples holding hands in exactly the same room.
Yeah, from my perspective it is, because I think it's much more noticeable because it gets broadcast around the world.
But you've only noticed it because
in Westminster Hall.
You've only noticed it because you looked up all the people being horrible on social media. You don't read the newspapers and you didn't notice it yourself on the television.
Well, to be fair, I think I have noticed it in certain situations.
We're only talking about one situation, aren't we? What other situations are you thinking of now, Claire?
Well, look, I'm quite a tactile person myself, and I'm a big believer in.
Well, don't hold your husband's hand at your grandma's funeral, whatever you do, Claire, because people like you will be slagging you off on national radio. No, it's not different.
It is. I think it is different. I
think because they're better than you,
and it's in Westminster Hall. No, because it's a show, and if you're going to be part of that show,
right? You
just need to.
So, what were the other examples you were thinking of a moment ago?
In sort of formal situations, I guess. But I'm not saying that it's only necessarily only then. Well, as part of the processions and things like that, I think they tend to be more. Slightly more tactile, and I think it is more noticeable. But it's only because
and you have a problem. You have a problem with that. Why?
I don't have a huge problem
Why
with
have
it
you rung me then?
In many ways, because I think my point is that it's being televised, and in that particular point. At that particular point, it's the majesty of Westminster Hall. It's the history of it.
Yeah.
And they are very formal, aren't they? That's the way they do it.
Yes, but I mean,
and some of it is horrible, and it was horrible that he had to walk behind his mother's coffin.
Here is Zara and Mike Tyndall walking up exactly the same room, holding hands.
Come on, James. I've already made that point.
What point is it you think you've made? That they did it 10 minutes earlier, so it's okay. If they'd done it 10 minutes later, it wouldn't be.
They're not part of the formal procession, and it is formal, and therefore be formal. That's my point.
Okay. And finally, my point again is where does one go to find this guidance? I mean, on what basis are these people deciding that it was inappropriate behaviour?
Well, I think I agree with you that it must be a minefield.
Also, if he's not allowed to wear his uniform, is he still subject to all the other protocols as well?
I don't think anybody actually knows the answer to that, do they?
Well, you do.
No, I don't know the answer to it.
Well, here you are.
I know, but you're trying to make it very sort of black and white. Or,
no, I'm not.
I'm to the other.
I'm quite the opposite. I'm trying to understand why anybody would ever have a problem with two people holding hands.
Because I just think that was just such a formal occasion that you just need to not do it.
What do you think the Queen would have said?
I think she's very politic, isn't she? And
so I'd like to hold hands with my wife. I'd like to hold hands with my wife, Grandma. Is that okay with you?
Maybe if she'd have been there, they wouldn't have done it. I don't know.
If she'd been there, there wouldn't be a funeral, Claire. I think we can all agree on that. But if she was asked her opinion by her grandson, who said, "I'd really like to hold Meghan's hand at this point in proceedings. How do you feel about that?" What do you think she would have said?
I don't know. But
do you think she would have said, "Well, let's check with Claire. Let's check with Claire in Kennington"?
No, I've told you I don't know the absolute answer to when you shouldn't.
I think you do, really. I think it's your grandma's funeral and you want to hold your wife's hand. I don't even think there's a debate to be had or a conversation to be had. And I think you probably know that deep down, but I respect you and I thank you for having a crack at trying to explain the behaviour of these ghouls and vampires. And you know, we must put on the record the argument that it's very, very different to do it at that precise point in proceedings as opposed to at previous or subsequent points in proceedings when other people did it.
Greetings, you've tuned into the Sussex Ambassador channel, your one-stop destination for all things Sussex. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button before we dive in. Today, we're going to discuss a recent event that sparked quite the controversy. A caller during a radio show hosted by the esteemed James O'Brien expressed her displeasure at Prince Harry and Meghan Markle holding hands during the late Queen's service. Unbelievable, isn't it? But it goes to show the extent to which the media plays a role in shaping public opinion, often negatively. It's intriguing how a simple act of affection stirred up such a fuss, isn't it? It's a testament to the power of the media and the influence it holds over public perception. But fear not, for James O'Brien, in his ever-eloquent manner, was quick to defend the Sussexes. Let's delve deeper into this claim and see if it holds any water, shall we? A caller recently sparked controversy by criticising Harry and Meghan's affectionate gesture during the late Queen's service. Now, this was an assertion that took many by surprise. This caller voiced her displeasure at what she termed as an inappropriate display of affection at a royal event. She went as far as to suggest that Harry and Meghan were wrong in holding hands during the service, a claim that has since been met with a wave of differing opinions. The basis of her argument was that there is a time and place for such displays of affection, and according to her, a royal service was neither the time nor the place. She implied that there was a certain level of decorum that should be adhered to in such settings, a decorum that, in her opinion, Harry and Meghan had failed to uphold. Now, one might wonder, what could be so wrong about two people who are very much in love, holding hands? Isn't that a universal symbol of love, of unity, and of mutual support? But, according to this caller, it was a gross misstep, a breach of an unspoken rule, an affront to the solemnity of the occasion. This assertion, as expected, generated a lot of buzz. It led to a flurry of discussions, debates, and commentaries, all centered on one question. Is it inappropriate for a couple to hold hands at a royal event? The answer, as you might expect, varies depending on who you ask. But here's the crux of the matter. What this caller has done is not just voice an opinion. She has, intentionally or not, ignited a debate about the nature of royal protocol, about the boundaries of personal freedom within the confines of tradition, and about the place of love and affection in the public sphere. But is there a rule against showing affection to your partner? Let's find out. Many of us might be wondering if there's a royal protocol that forbids public display of affection. This question is often raised when we see royals in public, particularly when they are attending official engagements. But let's be clear about this. There is no such rule in the royal protocol. The royal protocol is a set of guidelines that royals are expected to follow. It covers a wide range of topics, from how to dress for different occasions to how to behave in public. However, it doesn't dictate every aspect of a royal's life. Royals, like the rest of us, are human beings with emotions and personal lives. They are allowed to express their affection for their loved ones in public. It's true that some royals choose to be more reserved in public. This is a personal choice, not a rule enforced by the royal protocol. It's also worth noting that the royal protocol evolves over time. It changes to reflect the changing times and societal norms. For instance, Queen Elizabeth II and Prince Philip rarely showed public affection during their decades-long marriage. This was a reflection of their generation's values more than a rule of the royal protocol. On the other hand, younger royals like Prince Harry have been seen being affectionate with their spouses in public. This shows that the royal protocol is not as rigid and unchanging as some might believe. So when we see Harry and Meghan holding hands in public, they are not breaking any royal protocol. They are simply expressing their love for each other, just like any other couple would. This brings us back to the caller's claim. Her assertion that Harry and Meghan were wrong to hold hands during the late Queen's service is not grounded in fact. It's not backed by any rule or tradition of the royal protocol. It's a personal opinion, and one that seems to be fueled by an unjustified resentment towards Harry and Meghan. As we can see, the caller's claim is baseless. But what does this tell us about her? Now that we've debunked the caller's claim, we need to understand her motivation behind this critique. Our attention turns to the caller's emotions. Jealousy and bitterness, two powerful feelings, can often cloud our judgment and paint our perspectives. It's possible that these emotions have influenced the caller's perception of Harry and Meghan. The sight of their shared affection, so clearly displayed, might have stirred feelings of envy within her. But why would she feel this way? The media's role in this cannot be overlooked. The media is a powerful tool that can shape public opinion, and frequently it is used to spread negativity. In the case of Harry and Meghan, the media has been relentless in its criticism, often bordering on a hate campaign. It's not hard to imagine how constant exposure to such negativity might have affected the caller's views. The caller's critique of Harry and Meghan holding hands during the late Queen's service is more than just a comment on royal protocol. It is a reflection of her personal feelings towards them. A simple act of affection has been twisted into a scandal, a controversy, a breach of the so-called royal protocol. But at its core, it is a manifestation of the caller's own emotions, her jealousy and bitterness, amplified by the media's rhetoric. The media's portrayal of Harry and Meghan has created a narrative that is not only unfair but also misleading. It has turned a love story into a spectacle that is consumed and critiqued by millions. The caller is just one of these consumers, her views shaped by a narrative that is far from the truth. It is important to remember that behind the royal titles and the media frenzy, Harry and Meghan are just two people in love. They are a couple who, like any other, express their affection for each other. To criticize them for this is not only unjust but also deeply personal. It is clear that the caller's critique stems from her personal feelings rather than facts. Let's now turn our attention to James O'Brien, who bravely defended Harry and Meghan against this baseless critique. Enter James O'Brien, a man of integrity and wit, unafraid to champion the cause of love amidst a sea of unrelenting criticism. His boldness is refreshing, cutting through the noise with his resolute stance and a clear understanding of the facts. O'Brien, with his well-honed insight, quickly discerned the underlying tone of the caller's complaint. He saw the jealousy, the bitterness, the unvoiced frustration that was driving her to lash out at Harry and Meghan. He saw how she was merely a pawn in a wider hate campaign perpetuated by certain media outlets. But rather than stoop to her level, O'Brien responded with grace and firmness. He pointed out the glaringly obvious fact that there exists no rule, no royal protocol, no societal norm that prohibits a couple from holding hands. His argument was simple yet powerful, exposing the caller's claim for what it was, a baseless critique stemming from personal bias rather than legitimate concern. His defense of Harry and Meghan was not just about a simple act of hand-holding. It was about standing up for the freedom to express love, the freedom to be human. It was about challenging the antiquated notions that often shackle the royals, about questioning the narrative that media often spins to suit their agenda. In just one conversation, O'Brien laid bare the hypocrisy of the caller, and by extension many others who hide their prejudice behind the veil of royal protocol. He did not just defend Harry and Meghan, he defended the right to love, to be authentic, to be free from baseless judgment. His words were not just a defense, they were a call to action. A call for us to question, to think, to break free from the shackles of unfounded criticisms. A call to celebrate love in all its forms, without fear of judgment or reprisal. We applaud James O'Brien for his unwavering support and defense of Harry and Meghan. To wrap up, we've seen how a caller's baseless critique was bravely countered by James O'Brien. This discussion has reminded us that it's paramount to separate fact from personal feelings. The caller's assertion that Harry and Meghan were wrong to hold hands during the late Queen's service was not grounded in royal protocol, but rather in her own personal resentment. James O'Brien, in his characteristic bold and fearless manner, called out this bias and defended the couple's display of affection. He reminded everyone that there is no rule against showing love for your partner, even in the most formal of settings. This interaction serves as a reminder of the importance of questioning the motivations behind criticisms and not letting personal bias cloud our judgment. Thank you for joining us today. Do remember to subscribe, like, and share this video. Until next time, cheerio.